Now, This Week with Bob Mueller on News 2.
This week,
our uptake statewide is a lot lower than we expected.
many Tennesseans are choosing not to get the COVID-19 vaccine. You will hear from State Health Commissioner Dr. Lisa Piercey.
I call upon our president to end this nightmare.
Tennessee congressional Republicans point the fingers at the White House for the migrant surge at the southern border.
To avoid the current crisis, all that the Biden administration, all that President Biden would have had to do is nothing.
The president says the border crisis is the result of a broken immigration system. The Trump team left him.
Deterioration of the concrete is starting to be a little bit more prevalent.
A major downtown Nashville bridge replacement project is on the way. More in our This Week cover story.
We just wanted it to feel like an everyday thing and that they're a regular customer.
And it's now a year old. The Store, Brad and Kimberly Williams Paisley's philanthropic venture to bring dignity to those in need of food. We will take you there. Hello again and welcome to another edition of This Week. No start date is set yet, but a major bridge replacement project at 11th and Broadway is going to happen. More in our This Week cover story. But first, a look at the other political headlines of the week. Republican lawmakers flocked to the U.S.-Mexico border to inspect what they are calling the Biden border crisis.
Today, we are seeing a crisis.
Tennessee 3rd District Congressman Chuck Fleischman was on the trip.
What we need to do is no more euphemisms from this White House, no more political maneuvering by Pelosi and Schumer to try to call it a challenge. It is a crisis with dire, multiple problems involved with this.
The GOP is blaming the Democratic Party for the increase in immigration numbers, specifically children crossing the border without parents. Tennessee 6th District Congressman John Rose was also on the visit to the southern border.
As I think about the people I represent back in Tennessee, I call upon our president to end this nightmare by announcing to the world that the southern border of the United States is open for legal immigration.
Tennessee Senator Bill Hagerty has also visited the border.
The crisis there is of unimaginable proportion, and it's entirely unnecessary. This is a crisis of the Biden administration's own doing. If you think about it, President Trump had put in place successful protocols to keep people in Mexico. The Mexican government was even working their side of the border to keep the border safe and secure, and illegal immigration had decreased 75% since the migrant protection protocols were put in place. Now, what you see is an administration here in Washington that wants to just tear up everything that President Trump has done. They've halted all of the construction along the wall. They tore up the migrant protection protocols, and now we have a massive flood of immigration across the southern border, all types of health problems. There's a lot of security issues, and we're going to have a lot more drugs and crime as a result of all of this.
The Biden administration countered by saying they inherited a broken immigration system from the Trump team, a cruel policy of child separation, and a disassembled asylum system denying amnesty claims.
A lot of the migrants coming in saying they're coming in because you promised to make things better. It seems to be getting worse by the day. Was it a mistake not to anticipate this surge?
Well, first of all, there was a surge the last 2 years, in 19 and 20, there was a surge as well.
This one might be worse.
No, well, it could be, but here's the deal. We're sending back people to, first of all, the idea that Joe Biden said come, because I heard the other day that they're coming because they know I'm a nice guy and I won't do what Trump did.
They're saying this.
Yeah. Well, here's the deal. They're not.
Tennessee Congressman Rose disputes the president's claim of inheriting a broken immigration system.
Nothing could be further from the truth. In fact, to avoid the current crisis, all that the Biden administration, all that President Biden would have had to do is nothing. It is the change in policies that he announced as a candidate and then has implemented since being inaugurated as president that have caused this humanitarian crisis at the southern border.
The Biden administration is deploying FEMA to open new facilities to house children as the president continues to urge migrants, many making their way to the U.S. in hopes of a safer future, to stay home.
I can say quite clearly, don't come, and what we're in the process of getting set up, don't leave your town or city or community.
President Biden, now on his Help Is Here tour to pitch Americans on the benefits of his massive COVID relief law, spoke exclusively with ABC's George Stephanopoulos about what's next, a tax hike for wealthy Americans.
Anybody making more than $400,000 will see a small to a significant tax increase. If you make less than $400,000, you won't see one single penny in additional federal tax.
The president prepared to do it along partisan lines if necessary.
I'll get the Democratic votes for a tax increase.
But Biden saying he doesn't believe he'll have to choose between his agenda and the filibuster, something Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell said doing away with would create a scorched earth Senate.
I don't think you have to eliminate the filibuster. You have to do it what it used to be when I first got to the Senate, and that is that a filibuster, you had to stand up and command the floor. Once you stopped talking, you lost that, and someone could move in and say, I move the question of. So you got to work for the filibuster.
Biden also clearly has a different relationship than Donald Trump with Russian leader Vladimir Putin. While noting there are times where mutual interests will allow them to work together, he's also been critical.
We understand one another.
So you know Vladimir Putin. You think he's a killer?
Mm-hmm. I do.
An unclassified U.S. intelligence report released yesterday concluded Putin oversaw a sweeping effort to interfere in the 2020 election to hurt Biden's chances. Biden saying this.
He will pay a price.
Now to our This Week cover story. With tens of thousands traveling down Broadway every day to get into downtown Nashville, the Tennessee Department of Transportation says the wear and tear has taken its toll on a Broadway bridge that now needs to be replaced. News 2's Stassi Olmos explains the impact.
Pre-COVID, more than 26,000 vehicles traveled on the Broadway Bridge between 11th and 12th every day.
That's pretty high traffic volume. It's probably one of the busier streets in Nashville.
Ted Kanazowicz with the Tennessee Department of Transportation says after nearly 100 years, it's time to replace it.
The bridge has just reached its useful life. Deterioration of the concrete is starting to be a little bit more prevalent, requiring more maintenance. And so it's just time to replace the bridge.
But replacing that bridge is going to be a big undertaking, especially with so many construction projects already going on in the area.
The new Grand Hyatt is on the northeast corner of the bridge. Asurion is building would be the northwest side of the bridge. And then across from that, a 2012 structure that's being built. So all four corners have active projects on them. Very congested and busy sites. So we're looking to get this bridge project moving and hopefully well underway before all these projects come online.
The project is still in the very early phases, having just named engineering firm Gresham Smith to conduct surveys.
Survey the site, try to locate the conflicts that are out there, like utilities, identify the property ownership, identify the needs of the railroad and 11th Avenue, that Metro Road, to make sure we have taken everybody's concerns and needs into consideration. And then we'll come up with a bridge design that will meet all of those constraints, can be constructed quickly, and will have a long service life of another 75 years or longer.
TDOT does not expect to start construction until possibly 2023. Reporting in Nashville, Stassi Olmos, News 2.
Stay with us. This Week continues in a moment. Welcome back to This Week. Vaccine hesitancy and distrust are proving to be major issues here in Tennessee. The state says more people than they expected are saying no to the vaccine. We hear the latest in the fight against COVID-19 from State Health Commissioner Dr. Lisa Piercey.
We're continuing to ramp up our efforts statewide. We now have vaccinated 1,265,000 Tennesseans. That's about 17% of the population. We were proud to see some information come out yesterday from the CDC in their weekly MMWR report, which ranks Tennessee 12th nationally for second dose completion. That's been an issue that has worried some people and has been on top of mind for us, is if you get that first dose, to make sure you get that second dose. Tennessee is doing very well amongst the nation in second dose completion. We also continue to have a high priority focus on vulnerable populations and specifically minority populations. We have the vaccination rate for Black Tennesseans at 8.7%, which is higher than the national average of 7.6%. It's not where we need it to be yet, but we're making progress on that important work. Unfortunately, our uptake statewide is a lot lower than we expected. Demand is pretty high here in Middle Tennessee and specifically in our metro areas, Metro Nashville as well as Memphis and other places, but statewide it's lower than we expected. Particularly in our rural areas, there are a lot of appointment slots that go unfilled. Here in Middle Tennessee, about 80% of the state's schedules are full. You have to remember that's outside of the metro areas. So these numbers that I'm going to give you encompass the 89 rural health departments, but here in Middle Tennessee, about 80% of the appointments are full. Compare that to East Tennessee, where about 50% of the appointments are full, and in rural West Tennessee, where less than 20% of the appointments are full. So uptake is an issue, and we've known it was going to be an issue, and I've talked to my peers in the other southern states, and they're seeing the same thing. And so when you look at those national rankings, you will see the southern states grouped near the bottom, and we believe more and more each day that is likely the result of low uptake. I do want to remind you, though, if you are seeking out a vaccine, we have over 500,000 available appointments statewide in the state scheduling system. So get on the website, you put in the information at first, and yes, it takes a couple of extra minutes to put all of that information in, but then when you get to the site, that's already done, and so you get through the line a lot quicker. That is calculated on several different fronts. So one of them is just balancing supply and demand. The supply hasn't come quite as quickly as we anticipated. I got briefed this morning from the White House, and we do think we're going to see a bump the week of the 29th, so the last week of the month, and then a bigger bump the first week in April. So it's this precarious balance, particularly when you're making statewide decisions, but you have this wide variability across the state in uptake. So we're having some significant discussions about how quickly to accelerate through the phases. I'm pretty confident in saying that we will get to all adults before the May 1st deadline. And so we are looking at how that cadence plays out because we're very anxious to get there. The latest wastage event that I can remember, the one that was validated was the one in Memphis. So that was our largest one at around 2,500. We had the case of Pfizer in Knoxville, which was about another 1,100. And then remember, we were able to salvage the one in Rutherford County because of some very quick action on the ground there. And so I think our total wastage is around 3,600 or 3,800 doses. Haven't had any other big events. The other ones have been pretty small, 10, 5, 20, those kind of things. We anticipated that because we know that people of color, people of lower income, and rural conservatives are less likely to take vaccine. They're more likely to be hesitant. And so we're trying to combat all of that through education. And Dr. Wright and I were just talking a few minutes ago, and he made a very salient point, which is, you know, it's really important to tell your story when you get vaccinated because we understand that people don't trust the government, and we understand that there's sometimes questions about vaccines that they don't get sufficient answers to. But when they see family and friends get vaccinated, they think, okay, I can do this. That's the best way. So if you've been vaccinated, go tell your families and friends. This is the one time I do encourage selfies and putting it on social media. They have a great selfie booth here. And so that's what we need to do is be convincing our friends and our family this is the right thing to do for our community as well as our personal lives.
And stay with us. This week continues in a moment. Welcome back. It took 5 years of planning and has served more than 1 million customers in its first year. It's called The Store, an idea to protect the dignity of those in need of food from a country music star and his actress wife. The store is the outgrowth of a 2012 parenting lesson Brad and Kimberly Williams Paisley gave to their children.
You got real mad at them because they were acting like brats, and you said, throw them in the car. We're going to teach them about people in need. And you called a friend of yours and said, where should we take them? And she said, you should go to Unity Shop, which is a similar situation to what the store ended up being.
The Unity Shop, there for the community every day.
Thank you for your donation to the Unity Shop.
We fell in love with the idea of a grocery store that feeds people with, they get choice, they get the dignity that comes with that. Their family feels normal. And then eventually they graduate out of the plan and they're back on their feet. And so immediately I said, we got to do this in Nashville. This is such a good idea. Why isn't this everywhere?
The opening was set for February 2020 with a celebration and ribbon cutting.
And then the tornadoes hit and it's like, let's just open. Let's just feed people.
Well, we immediately pivoted to disaster relief. And then right after that, of course, the pandemic happened. So the original idea of having people able to come into the store and shop and have choice and all that, we sort of had to pivot away from that and go to curbside and delivery, which was something we'd never even anticipated doing. But there was a whole portion of the population, and it wasn't safe for them to leave their homes and shops.
With music studios shut down due to COVID, a producer friend of Brad's offered up idled studio engineers, interns, and others to help with food delivery to the most vulnerable, the elderly.
And our original idea was just, it was all based on income and need. But we never imagined that there'd be an entire demographic that, regardless of income, it was a death-defying feat for them to go into a grocery store.
So we started delivering to like 48 people, something like that. And now we're up to 450 a week. We're serving 5 times more people than we anticipated.
The 450 is just elderly. That doesn't even include, there's a whole
curbside as well.
There's a whole list of people that get this. We were at 1 million meals served as of January.
So what we've learned as an organization is how to pivot in the last year, as everybody has.
And there is great appreciation from those being served.
They write letters. It's been the sweetest thing in the world. In some of the towers where we go, they'll write letters to the store saying how it's changed their lives and what it's allowed them to do. And it's some of the sweetest things you would ever want to read. And if there was ever any doubt on whether or not we should be doing this or could pull it off, you read one of those and you realize that this is what we're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, and also with the pandemic, it's no contact delivery as much as possible. So there's really not a lot of opportunity to interact with people.
The studio crews, interns, and other delivery volunteers were thanked in a unique way.
They've dropped all these bags off outside each door, and all of the older folks are staying behind the door until they clear. And this was like the second time they delivered to this floor. And they all came out and they had all dressed up. Like they realized the delivery was coming that day. So that was their big chance to see another human being. They walked out and then started a round of applause down the hallway for them bringing the food. And you can imagine what that felt like for those people.
And the name, the store?
I was saying, what could it be? What would say it simply? And this person just said, should be called the store. It's what you would be doing. You tell your kid, let's go to the store.
So we want people to feel normal. And that's what I would say to my kids, let's go to the store. So we just wanted it to feel like an everyday thing and that they're a regular customer.
Need remains. Home deliveries must continue for many. You can help.
If people want to volunteer, you can go to Hands on Nashville. They're coordinating the volunteers. And if you want to donate, we always appreciate donations. We're not accepting food donations right now, but financial donations are fantastic. You can go to thestore.org and you can also learn more about what we do.
2020 has proved challenging for many. The tornadoes, COVID-19, job losses, business closings, social unrest, a Christmas Day bombing. Many who never thought they would be in need are.
Yeah, and you're not alone. And you're right. There are so many people that are facing this situation who have never faced it before, never anticipated facing something like this. So there's no shame involved in it. You're not alone, and it's okay to ask for help and seek help.
And the message is getting out. The store can help.
It's called The Store. Now, this is a really cool thing. So can you tell everybody what it's about?
It's meant to be a free grocery store. It gives people the dignity of choice. As opposed to a handout, they have a shopping experience. Their kids feel normal. It's called The Store so that they can say very simply, hey, we're going to the store. Difference being when they go through and check out, they don't pay for anything.
Now we're offering deliveries to the elderly, homebound seniors, and we're doing curbside pickup, and we're serving 5 times more people than we ever imagined we would at this point.
How has the need changed in the last few months?
What I'm seeing is over 1 million Tennesseans this year are estimated to be food insecure, which is way up.
We could not do it without our volunteers, and we just want to say thank you so much for making the store what it is. We couldn't do it without you.
No way.
Stay with us. This week continues in a moment. We know you have a lot of choices out there, so we want to thank you for spending part of your weekend with us. That will do it for another edition of This Week. We hope to see you back here next weekend for another edition of This Week. Until then, you have a great week.